This version of Space Invaders on the Game Boy is very special for its 16-bit game hidden inside the game if you played it on a Super Game Boy. Now there was plans to have other games like this where there would be um like this where there would be another 16-bit version of the game hidden inside the Game Boy cartridge, but alas, there was something around the corner that basically stifled all progress on this. The N64 was around the corner. In 1996, the Space Invaders the N64 came to America, I believe. I'd have to check that. But you get the point. The Super Game Boy was made in 1994, according to the end of the end credits on the Super Game Boy, possibly 1995. And the N64 was 1995, 1996, and then until the GameCube, that was. So yeah, the reason we didn't really get any other games like Space Invaders, where there's another game hidden away inside the cartridge, or even another 16-bit version of a game hidden away inside of a Game Boy cartridge, is because, well, there was another console around the corner, and the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy were seen as, well, kind of old news. Sure, there were still Super Nintendo games being made, but not as many, and because they wanted to focus on their new property, the N64. Now, the N64 does have a, a Game Boy pack where you can actually insert Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow. Of course, you can also trick it and play other games, but I haven't actually found one single method on how to do so. But you also need a copy of Pokemon Stadium or Pokemon Stadium 2, and I don't have either for some reason. But there was plans for other 16-bit games to be hidden inside of Game Boy cartridges like Space Invaders. It's just if if sure, the N64 has a great games, but to imagine the because if they didn't want to release a game on the Super Nintendo itself, like, and they just wanted to release it on a Game Boy cartridge, then they could get away with a lot more things, kind of like Space Invaders. Of course, they did re-release the Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders found in the Game Boy cartridge on the Super Nintendo. But anyways, so but it would have been very interesting to see what they could come up with and do, because if they didn't want to release a Super Nintendo title, and they just wanted to test it, like, just kind of release it on a Game Boy cartridge and then see how that Game Boy cartridge sold before, and then after people realized it had it on there, um then that would be extremely great, because then they could literally play test games on there. And there was Nintendo Power at the time, and the internet was just starting to come up. Of course, it was dial-up because 1995, but still, the people that played the game, or the Game Boy game, and then played the 16-bit version if they had a Super Game Boy, would say something like, "Oh, I loved the 16-bit the other game, and it would be labeled something like 16-bit version or SNES version or something like that." Sadly, we only got one game, that actually has this, and that's Space Invaders. It has a full 16-bit game in it, and also the Game Boy game. Eventually, I'm going to talk about Tetris on the Game Boy, if I get it, that is. And I'm also going to talk about the original Star Fox, because, well, why not?